Welcome to the March to a Million podcast with Greg DuPont, founder of the Wealth Solutions Network. In this podcast, Greg shares his journey to positively impact 1 million lives by creating an army of financially minded attorneys who embrace an expanded role in their clients' lives. Greg and his guests challenge the status quo in the legal profession and the financial services industry, and show attorneys how they can improve their lives, provide greater value to their clients, and experience greater professional satisfaction. Join us in this movement and strengthen your business by learning how to solve your clients' most pressing financial problems.
Hello and welcome to another March to a Million podcast with your host, Greg DuPont. Today, we're going to be talking to another attorney, Susan Chace, attorney at law, and she is a member of the Wealth Solutions Network. So we're going to get to know who she is, what makes her tick, and one of the reasons why she joined the Wealth Solutions Network. So Greg, take it away.
I thank you, Matt. You know, one of the things I love about what we're doing here with the Wealth Solutions Network and what it's given me, Susan, is the opportunity to meet people like you across the country, hear their stories, and share those stories with other people. You know, we have a lot of attorneys that listen to this program, but we also have some consumers that listen to it as well. And hopefully people that might want to learn a little bit more about you will listen to this as well. So thank you for deciding to take the time out to be with me today with what is kind of an ambush, right? I didn't tell you much about today, did I?
No, you did not.
But that's because I know you can handle it, Susan. So, you know, when we first started talking months ago, what really interested me about you and your story was how proactive you were being about this change in your life. And so, first of all, I'd like you to share, and this is something that sets you apart, I believe, is the way that you have evolved and grown to where we are now, where you finally got through that. Well, this is an adult program, that shit show that was the California bar exam that you had to deal with. So introduce yourself to the world, if you would. Tell them who Susan is.
Yeah, so I'm Susan Chace, and I'm now an attorney at law, which has been a 14-year journey for me. And I finally, I think I was in my last semester of school and I found you and I loved what you were talking about. I just see people in so much debt and they don't know how to even make ends meet. And especially out here in California, everything's so expensive that, you know, you really have to be strategic about your finances. And so in law school, I really wanted to focus on estate planning when I graduated and passed the bar. And I didn't know how I was going to help people because the estate plan, I feel like AI can write an estate plan for you. And a lot of people are doing the DIY thing, but then having the financial aspect to really tie everything together and then the insurance aspect too really piqued my interest. So that's when I think I took some of your classes and then I phoned you. I'm like, okay, look, I want to sign up before I'm even an attorney. I just want to sign up for it. And I remember our initial phone calls. You're like, okay, I need you to do this, this, and this. I said, okay. And then the next month, you're like, okay, so what did you accomplish? I said, well, I did this, this, and this. And then each month, you know, you're telling me, hey, do this, do this. And then every time we would talk again, I would have already done that and then some. So that's in a nutshell how I came to you. But, you know, there's a whole process of the 14 years getting to this point in my life. So
let's talk about that because number one, that Susan Chace that knocked off everything on the to-do list from one meeting to the next, while you were still studying for the bar, while you were dealing with all the stress and all that, is the byproduct of these 14 years, this 14-year journey of yours. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of those 14 years that got you to law school and decided, hey, I'm changing what I'm doing here midstream.
Yeah, well, so 14 years ago, I have 3 children and they're all younger then, of course. And my youngest at that time, she was about 3 or 4 years old. And I've been a dental hygienist for most of my adult life for about 31 years. And then 11 years ago, I got my real estate license. So I'm managing children, but I don't want to keep them in daycare all day long. So I was trying to figure out how I can function where I'm still making a living and still being a mom and getting that work-life balance. So that's why I had the 2 careers, because I could do the hygiene part-time, and then real estate is full-time, but mostly in the evening. So, there's some juggling around with that. But I got to thinking that I wanted to go back to my original plan. After high school, I wanted to go to law school, but life took me in different directions. And so I couldn't really visit law school until 14 years ago when she was about 4. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take the LSAT and, put my applications in and see what happens. Well, apparently it wasn't the time then. And I had to wait. And so I waited because LSAT scores are only good for 5 years. So I waited till the end of that. And she's a little bit older now at this point. She's like, 9 or 10. So, okay, the home alone thing, you can be home alone for a little bit longer now that you're older. So I got into school when was it? I guess it was 2000. Oh gosh, no, it was 2021. It was 2021 I got into school. And that's when we're kind of like really deep into the whole COVID thing. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And law schools were transitioning to go online. So I found the school that was near me, and I did online for the first year, but then I went back in person when I could. And it was a really great experience to do that. But I was still working. I was still doing hygiene. I was still doing real estate, and I'm putting myself through school and going into debt for, putting myself through school at night. And gosh, it was such a long journey, but I should back up though. There is something that happened that really pushed me.
Yeah, tell us more.
Do that. So I think it was after I took the LSAT. I took it twice because I wanted to make sure my scores were really good to get in. But when I was waiting to apply to school again, I was losing feeling in my fingertips and that my legs weren't working. And it was kind of disconcerting because my job really required me to use the fine motor skills. And one day I woke up and I got out of bed, and all of a sudden I'm trying to walk, but my legs buckled underneath me. And now I'm on the floor and I'm just laying there and I don't know how I'm going to get up. All my kids are downstairs and I didn't want them to even think there's something wrong with mom. So I crawled over to the bathroom and I pulled myself up on the wall and I was like hanging on to anything. And I was like, okay, like something serious is going on. This isn't just nerve impingement. Like what is going on? So I called my doctor, and he was a sports medicine doctor because I had some joint injuries on my knee from running for so long. And he's like, okay, let's come on in and let's take a look and see what's going on. So every day my legs don't work, and every day it takes me like 45 minutes to get up right. I felt like the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. You put the oil here and it was insane. And so I got myself to his office and he couldn't figure it out. So he ordered some tests. And one of the tests was an MRI, which came before the EMG, which is where they put an electrode in your muscle. And then they say, make a fist. And then where it's blocked, they can tell, but they're putting so that sounded really painful. So I was kind of happy that the MRI started. That appointment was before this one. So when I get there, have you ever had an MRI before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
It's a weird thing, right? Because this one wasn't a full body one. It was just for my head and neck. And they were trying to figure out if there's any nerve impingement. But anyhow, during the MRI, they pulled me out and they said, we need to do a contrast. And I knew something was wrong because with my health background, I knew that that's going above the next basic check.
Yeah.
So when they found the tumor, they found a tumor with the contrast. So they took me out of that right away and they said, you need to have emergency surgery. So that's what I did. I had emergency surgery.
So how old were you at that time, Susan?
I was 44. 44. So they took me from one hospital to the other where the neurologists were. And I got in right away, but the surgery wasn't until 12 hours later.
And how old were the kids at that point?
11 years ago. So my youngest is 15. So she was, I don't know, it's a mathy, but everybody was
So what I'm getting at is, so here you are, 44. You got two young kids,
3.
three, yeah, and all this stuff is happening around you while you're working full time,
Yeah.
and you're a single parent,
Yeah.
and in the estate planning world,
Uh-huh.
we come upon people all the time that don't think it'll ever happen to them.
Right.
And you had to be sitting there thinking, oh my God, the darkest thoughts that were out there going through that.
Sort of. I mean, it happened all so fast. And I remember making my phone calls, just telling people, hey, they found a brain tumor. I'm going in for surgery. So I just want to call you by next call. I'm just making phone calls to let people know what was going on. But the surgery was 12 hours later, which is, I guess, normal. I had to do a bunch more tests and make sure that I could do the surgery and all that stuff. So it all happened so fast that I really wasn't thinking about, well, who's going to take care of my kids. I just couldn't think about that at the time because I don't know why. I think I just kind of blanked that out, thinking, oh, well, it'll just take care of itself, which I think a lot of people think that, because nobody wants to think about the end of their life and what's going to happen after. And I had been dating someone that I just met maybe a month before all of this. And when I got to the hospital, the nurse, she's like, oh, do you have somebody who you can give a limited power attorney, the health care, for in the hospital? So I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess I could have my mother, but she's in her 80s. And I don't know if, she would be the best person. And maybe my ex-husband, but I don't want him to have the burden on that. So I named this guy that I had just started dating. And so now he's got power of attorney. And if anything happened to me in the hospital, he would have the last say. And just thinking about that, how devastating would that be? Let's say the surgery wasn't successful and now I'm incapacitated. Now I'm a vegetable. I'm alive, but I'm not alive, right?
Yeah.
And he would have full control over the directive of how to take care of Susan on the hospital bed. So when I came out of all that, I think it took me 2 years after that to really think about what had happened and the gravity of all of that and the what if with all my children and all that. So it was very eye-opening for me. And that led me on the path of, okay, I'm going to go to law school and become an estate planning attorney so that people don't have to be in a situation where they're even considering the what ifs. I want them to come into any situation totally prepared and planned for the unknown. And a lot of people don't think about prevention, and I guess I wasn't either until then. And fortunately, God saved me so that I can go out and help people so that they don't get into a situation or worse that I was in.
Well, and God did make you as a particularly driven person. And, as I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, okay, basically 60 hours a week, 3 young kids at home. This comes on top of all of that, and your response to all that is to double down.
Yes.
So you said you finally have decided that you're getting rid of one of the jobs, and now it's been about 2 months now since you finally got the word that the bar was done and you were now officially licensed. So let's focus on that a little bit. And you've been, I applaud you. As I said, you reached out to me as you were finishing up your school, trying to figure out what your estate planning practice is going to look like in this modern era. Mm-hmm. And you're starting, I believe, the modern estate planning practice. And You've been kind of figuring out how do you transition into this because you still have financial obligations to meet. And you told me the type of target that you need to hit just to survive in California. And it ain't easy to survive in California, is it?
No, in fact, I still subscribe to all my real estate publications, and there was one that came through yesterday that says that in the highest, what was it, like not just California, but the big top cities, people need 80% down just to make their monthly expenses affordable. So if you look at home prices, and this is for the average person, not the ultra rich people that can afford anything, but the people who are working, making a living, and just wanting to have a good life for their family, 80% just to make ends meet. So it's a little disconcerting and troubling because I don't know what's going to happen.
And not only are you taking care of 3 kids, you're taking care of your mom as well, aren't you?
Yes, I got her onto a program so that we can eliminate her debt in a couple years instead of 21 years. So we're happy about that. It takes some discipline to do that. And, I've got her now sending me all of her information so that I can keep track of what's going on with all of that, because there really wasn't a lot of organization with anything like that. So I think it's really important for people to take control of their finances and not let the finances take control of them.
So we've talked a lot, you and I, about, kind of as you're moving forward into this world, kind of focusing and specializing on the groups that have been closest and I'll say dearest to you, but maybe that's not the right phrase to use, but drawing upon your history and your knowledge of the real estate industry and the dental industry, you're going to focus on those people in those groups where you think you can do a lot of good for them. Talk a little bit about that, your experience there, and what you think are some of the kind of unique challenges that are facing realtors, especially in California, let alone people who own dental practices, and how you're thinking about being able to serve them.
Well, the two professions. So for me, dentistry was a part-time gig for many, probably 26 years part-time. I only worked full-time when I was young and I could do it 5 days a week. But for the part-time hygienist or any part-time employee in any sector, they usually do not have benefits, health insurance. They don't have any benefits. They don't have a retirement plan. They don't have any of that stuff that a full-time employee does. And so, educating people that, okay, just because you're part-time and your employer does not offer this, that doesn't mean you can't be proactive and get it for yourself. So I really want to help people see that they don't have to rely on their employer for everything. And then it's like real estate agents, we're all independent contractors. We may work for a brokerage. If we own a brokerage, now we have a whole nother responsibility of agents underneath us. But if you're just a real estate agent and you work for a brokerage, there's nothing. There's no health insurance, no retirement. So you're almost worse than a part-time employee because you're not even guaranteed a salary. So real estate is a really, you have to be an entrepreneur and go after and find business. But again, it's the same thing. If you're a part-time employee or an independent contractor, usually you have zero benefits of any kind, unless you negotiate something. But employers are stretched thin as it is with the rising costs of everything, that the part-time people, or even the gig culture, people who are out there doing Uber driving, working at Amazon or just doing things online, like nobody has a protection that they can fall back on. So for me to educate people, especially in the two sectors that I am familiar with, as well as beyond that, I feel it's really important because I think people just get overwhelmed with so much information. I know we have access to everything now because of the online connectivity. But just because you have information, if you don't know what you're looking for, you don't know. And then something might come in the periphery and you may think, oh, this kind of sounds like what I need, and I'll just go for that. But there might be a missing piece to that. So I just want to package everything for people so that they can understand it and then see how that can help them and their families now and long term, and even after their death.
In many ways, people that are in the real estate industry are even in worse shape than you were kind of alluding to, in the sense that their income is, for many of them, is a spike one year and none the next year. It's just very variable. A lot of people get into the industry thinking that, hey, this would be a great and entrepreneurial adventure, and it's easy to get in, but very hard to survive. And the ones that do survive often don't know about a lot of the tools that you and I have talked about in our coaching sessions that you can bring to them to be able to benefit from finally getting there and balancing things out. And I really look forward to watching you evolve and grow in your role as a coach to people that are in the real estate industry, as well as to the dental industry. Because as we've talked about, you now have many, many tools in the toolbox, and coming soon, as we've talked, doing some lunch and learn type of things with you and the people that are closest to you, that focus group that you're looking at, the medical professions and things like that, how you can really be able to help them. So Matt, you've kind of been on the fly on the wall here. I'm going to ask a couple quick questions, and I'm going to let you kind of chime in because you always have some great, insightful questions, especially with a story like Susan's, to really bring this home for us today. But Susan, again, I just wanted to tell you how much I enjoy our time together. And I think you're going to be a great ambassador of WSN and do a lot of good out there on the West Coast, where a lot of work needs to be done. So thanks for taking time out today. And Matt, I'm going to ask you to chime in here.
Yeah. So one of the neat things about being a fly on the wall here is really being able to hear the real stories of real people and their journeys on how they got to where they are today. And if you see yourself in Susan, right, as a person who really understands this opportunity and wants to do something fundamentally different within their estate planning firm, with all of the experience that she has, she's got so many ins and so many places, and a lot of you have the same sort of stuff, and that is the perfect candidate for Wealth Solutions Network. So please make sure that you go to joinwsn.com if you have not done that already, so that you can be a member just like Susan, and you can go ahead and pick the wonderful brain that happens to be Greg DuPont. It's a little scary in there every once in a while, but if you can navigate it, it's actually pretty freaking cool. And joinwsn.com is where you're going to want to go. Anywhere else they should go, Greg, or anything else on the horizon that our listeners need to know about?
Well, as always, if you happen to be a consumer that poked across this podcast and are interested in being treated by a true fiduciary in this marketplace, go to www.findwsn.com and see if you can get hooked up with a member.
Fantastic. And if you have not subscribed to the show yet, make sure that you click that subscribe button. But more importantly, if you know another estate planning attorney, or you know another person in the general public, the general consumer world, who really would like to have this relationship with a professional who truly has your best interest in mind, make sure that you go to those websites. And we'll have all the links in the show notes, including how you can connect with our new friend, Susan. So for Greg and Susan, this is Matt Halloran, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.
Thank you for listening to the March to a Million podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available, and get in touch with our team by visiting our website at www.wealthsolutionsgroup.biz, or give us a call at 614-432-8065. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Wealth Solutions Network. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice from qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have.